Hello and welcome again to my show, Searching for Integrity. My name really is John Smith, and I'm searching for people with integrity. Why? Because our country suffers from IDD, integrity deficit disorder. Today, we have as our guest Mr. T.J. Woodward in his new book, Conscious Recovery. Are you there, TJ?
Yes, so delighted to be here with you, John.
Well, thank you. I'm interested in what you have and what you do. And you put it in a book.
Yes, it's true. I actually have 3 books, and all of them are looking at how we can be more conscious in our lives. Conscious being, conscious recovery, and conscious creation. So my intention is to help people be more aware so that they can create the life that they truly desire.
That's good. That's good. Now, let me ask you this. How did you decide one day, someday in your past this is what you want to do? How did you come across that?
Well, it's interesting because I had some very specific ideas of what my life was going to look like, and it just didn't quite go that way. Somewhere around age 40, I kind of had basically an awakening that came it really came through my life falling apart, to tell you the truth. I was dedicated at that time to a spiritual practice, and spiritual practice for me was really about listening to inner wisdom rather than trying to create my life from my mind. And so when I did that, when I got clear that in some way I wanted to share a message of how my life had changed dramatically, and the moment I made that decision, everything started falling apart. So I knew I was onto something.
That's good. I was reading through your book to some extent, yes. I was able to wrangle a PDF from them because I tried to get a taste of it on my own. One of the things and I've done a lot of books in the last couple of years. I mean, I've done a lot of books, probably, I don't know, too many. What I'm looking at here is she sent it to me, Angela. She sent me a table of contents that she took it off and typed it right out. And I'm looking here, I didn't count them, but there are about, 50, 60, how many pages in the table of contents, do you know?
Well, the way I like to read is with little bite-sized digestible information. So there are 9 chapters in the book, and within each chapter, there are multiple subsections because conscious recovery is really designed to be read slowly. It's not like a novel you read cover to cover. So I designed each section to be something that the reader could read and then contemplate. So I would say there probably are about 50 subsections in the book.
Yeah, that gets an A+ in my book.
Well, thank you.
It is. This is not easy, but it's a purpose in that, and that purpose is probably going to show all of these readers that are going to stick their nose in the table of contents, and you're going to find a lot of questions, find people moving and putting around. Do you have this would be hard, but do you have one that you like better than the other in terms of the parts of or the chapters, or one that you really like?
Well, I mean, my hope is that I like all of them, but I will share with you how I came to the table of contents and the way the book is arranged. My own journey. When I was a young 18, 19, 20, I struggled with addiction, and I got sober really young, just before my 21st birthday, and that began a journey for me of self-discovery. And at that point in my life, I felt so damaged, so broken, not good enough, not lovable. And I was walking around with all of these ideas and beliefs, and I was searching for something outside of myself to bring relief. I met a woman who took me on a path of discovering my true nature and also pretty much unlearning every idea I had picked up about myself and the world that was keeping me feeling stuck. So the
Right.
basis of the book is my own journey from this belief in brokenness to reconnecting with my true nature, and ultimately discovering that I could create a life that was deeply filled with purpose and meaning. So that's the book. That's the journey. It's about the roots of addiction, how we break the cycle of addiction, and then how we do return to our own wholeness.
And then you have 2 more books.
I have 2 more books. Yeah.
What do you do for fun? It's not just write the book.
I do shows like this. This is the most fun thing. These kind of conversations, this is my fun.
Sure.
Do
No,
I need to get out more, John? Is that what you're telling me?
yes. It is for me too. This is what I like to do. And I have a good time with it. And oftentimes that without knowing, I will match up in sense of being the interviewer and the interviewee, because there's something in common. And that was, if I might tell you, this was 15 years ago. And I had a knee replacement. And got home, got there. And then after about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and I'm on meds. I'm on the ones here. I even was talking to my wife and asked her to say what it was. And she told me it was Oxycontin and hydrocodone. And it got to a point, she said, that when my 4 hours was up, I would tell her it's 3.5 or 3. And then she said that today, she said, you were horrible. You were actually horrible. And I said, yeah, my son, this son was living with us. He came down and tried talking to me, and I had all this, what I was supposed to do with the knee and this, and I'm going to be fine. Don't worry about it. And when I was on the school board, Summit County, Colorado, I met a guy who was a doctor and MD, and we became friends. And we got on the phone and said, "Come on over. I got a problem." And I said, he said, "Well, how did you know?" I said, "My skin felt like it was crawling." And then I thought, well, that's it then. And he came over. Nobody else would I listen to. I listened to him. And within 10, 15 minutes, I had a new life on lease. Or maybe that's a lease on life.
Either way works.
That's right. So people didn't want to be around me when I was with those drugs. I didn't think, I mean, it might have killed the pain, but it's, running them off. So I was, and she said, you only needed another 3 to 5 days just to finish, to stop taking it. Because what I did, I just took every bottle I had and gave it to my wife and said, "Here, take it. Don't ever give it to me again." That's something for me.
Yeah. And it's the thing about addiction is there's so many different facets to it. And even that word doesn't work for some people. But one of the things that you're talking about is actually the physical addiction. And a lot of times we tend to think that's what addiction is, right? Like, I have a physical need for this medication, for this pill, for this drug in order to, feel normal, to feel. A lot of times what happens is the physical piece of it will show up, like you're saying, like after some kind of accident, some kind of surgery, and then people can get hooked. I think the big question, though, and this is where my work comes in, is why is it that some people can get right off of that and other people find themselves going back to addictive behaviors repeatedly? And that's where we look at that addiction is not just the physical. In conscious recovery, I talk about the 4 rooms: physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. And there are aspects to addiction that can live in all 4 of those. And so for some people, if it's just a physical addiction. And I don't mean to minimize that, because it can be really brutal, like you're describing. But if it's not anything else, once we stop the drugs or taking them, once we detox from that, then we're okay. For other people, there's something much deeper happening.
Right, right. And how would you break that down in terms of your population and those that can just, get away from it, and the others can't for the life of themselves? How does it come in percentage of things?
Well, I think we would have to really describe or define the word addiction, because for some people, when we think of an addiction, we think of someone who was homeless or down and out. They've lost everything. Maybe they've lost their home, their job. That degree of addiction happens in a fairly small percentage of people. And those are the ones that are the face of addiction in so many ways, for obvious reasons, right? That's a very painful thing to witness in ourselves or in a loved one. But if we broaden the definition of addiction and look at addiction through the lens of seeking someone or something, some behavior or some substance outside of ourselves to try to fix or manage something that feels broken within, I can say pretty much all of us with that definition can say, oh, there have been times in my life that I do go back to that, or that I've been addicted. So in some ways I could say it's a small percentage, and other ways I could say it's 100% of us, at least in some ways.
Right. Now, did you say that you had four houses, or four, maybe they're broke up into something else there? I thought I heard the word house.
Yeah, it's a metaphor for the four houses, like the four rooms in your house, which is physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. I like acronyms, so that's PIES, and it's a piece of the pie that lives within us. And all of life really has a relationship with those four different rooms.
You know the Moody Blues?
I do, not personally, but yeah.
Well, there's a cut on one of their albums called House of Four Doors.
Oh.
It's a good album. Maybe
Nice.
maybe you'll find something for people to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to look inside yourself. Because you got to get it done, get it over. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think that's really why I wrote Conscious Recovery, is that recovery is really an inside job. And in a lot of ways, some of the addiction recovery models are kind of outer focused, right? And all of that's really important. I want to be clear, like building positive community, having counselors or people who we look to who are mentors, all of that is important. And there's also an aspect to the deeper healing, which is really going within, reconnecting with our true nature. And as I said before, looking at the ideas that we've developed about ourselves, what I call core false beliefs that keep us feeling stuck. So one way to say it is, if I believe I'm broken, I'm actually walking around with that frequency of brokenness, and I keep choosing relationships unconsciously to confirm that core false belief. So if we're only looking at the outside, in other words, if we're working on our relationships, if we're working on our communication skills, having more positive relationships in our life, looking for support groups, if we only do that, we might not do the deeper healing that is required, because once we heal those core false beliefs, we reconnect with our true nature and realize that we are lovable, we are worthy. And then from there, we're in a really different relationship with the world. And all of those outer things start to actually heal themselves as we heal from within.
Right. And a lot of encouragement.
Yeah.
At that point in my life, I'd already accomplished 10 years of group therapy with my fantastic doctor. Started out with my first wife, marital counseling, and went on my own. Got another wife. And that was, I know that, and I know people better now than I did then. And I also know that those things that I learned, and including my journey into metaphysics,
Mm,
With that, a lot of that I rely on,
mm,
and it still works for me. I need to meditate more, but it still works
mm.
for me.
What I'm curious about the journey in metaphysics, where has that taken you?
Well, it took me a long ways. It took me a long ways I wrote a book, and it was called Embracing the Abyss.
Mm,
And I was working with the SNL back in Texas,
mm.
and for some reason, when the FBI came in and busted all the bad guys, they decided I should be one of them too,
Wow.
and I wasn't.
Mm,
And the way I got out of it was I was meditating every
wow.
day, and I built a lot of things, I guess, walls or houses inside me,
Mm,
and I was able to do that. Um, you know what probably I was a witness for the government for 14 years,
wow.
and after yeah, wow, I can still feel it.
Mm,
And after it was over with, they one of them called me. Let's go to lunch. I did. He said, "We want you to know that we should never have prosecuted you." And I said, "Oh, okay, that's nice of telling me after 14 years."
right.
And so it helped me get through that. It helped me get through that. And I knew that I was going to get through it because I
Mm,
knew that God was with me. He was on
mhm.
my side. So that worked for me. That's how the metaphysics now, in terms of that transference. Do you offer that to your clients?
Yeah, I mean, what you're speaking to is so important because for many of us, it does take an event like that where we have an opportunity to look at our lives and look at what we want to create and look maybe at the way we've been living and that inner shift that can happen. And metaphysics in its simplest form, the definition is simply beyond the physical, right? So it's tapping into something deeper than just the physical world. And when you're in a moment like you were in, it's like there's this opportunity. It's like, okay, I might not be able to change or fix or control what's happening, but I can go within and start to have a different relationship with myself and the world. And to me, that really is metaphysics. It's recognizing that there is life way beyond just what we can touch, taste, smell, feel, whatever those five senses are. There's something much deeper. And that connection with source, with our true nature, is actually something that can then shift the way we live in the world. That really is the intention of conscious recovery for people who have had an addiction or had challenges in their life, to take a look at how we can unplug from that, plug back into our true nature. The power of perspective, we start to shift our relationship with the world rather than trying to change the world. And from there, then we can tap into a life of infinite possibilities instead of being victims to what's happening in the world. And that can be a process for people. And so my intention with conscious recovery is to provide a roadmap for people to do that, exactly what you're saying, to take whatever's happened in life and use that as an opportunity to ask, what do I want to create now? Who am I really? And how do I get through this in a very, very new way than the old way of thinking,
Right.
well, the world's happening and it's happening to me. We can shift into it's happening for me, and I can actually then start to create a life from a very different point of view.
Right. As they become clients, um, and using your skills for them, I would say they have an outstanding chance of reaching the goal
Mm-hmm.
and accomplishing what he wants to or she wants to. And you're the coach.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I grew up playing sports all my life.
Well, yeah, and the importance of mentorship, right? For me, I remember when I was fairly early in my journey, there were people who I looked to who had walked this path, right? It wasn't just someone who had these great ideas. It was someone who
Mhm.
truly had gone through some transformational experiences and found tools within them, found tools outside of them, and managed to use that as a way to have a different relationship with the world. And so I, of course, when I was, in my earlier days, I thought, oh, the teachers, the masters have reached a state of nirvana, which, is true on one hand, but I had hoped that I wouldn't have the human experience anymore. And that's not really what I'm about anymore. Now we are spiritual beings, and we're having a spiritual experience actually here on planet Earth. So I think mentorship, coaching, teaching, whatever word we use is vital on our path.
It is. And of course, it's vital to you and your own writing and your next books. You've got that on your wagon. And
well, I've made this, I have proclaimed that I'm not writing another book, but we'll see what happens. Three felt like a great number. We'll see if there's another one coming at some point. I have no intention of writing one, but you never know.
That's right. Now, let me ask you this. Where can people find your book? How do they order your book?
tjwoodward.com is the best place. That's where you can find all the books. There's workbooks, there's courses. We do retreats. We're doing a retreat in Bali this year. There's a lot of different opportunities. I do clinical trainings and treatment programs. So tjwoodward.com is the best place to find everything.
Well, you certainly have a gift, because it's too hard to do that. And you've got a gift that people recognize, and the more the recognition that you receive, then the more kind of build up in your own self by helping others.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, the intention now is to live a life on purpose, and that purpose really isn't about me as an individual. It's more about what I can contribute to the collective. And there were people there for me when I was going through my transformation, my difficulties, my challenges, and I'm deeply honored to be that for other people now.
Great. That's something that you certainly have, and you're going to share it with others. Do you often have any, let's see, would it be, let's just call it a group of coaches? Do you work with coaches? Or...
Yeah, I actually have a group of coaches who are trained in the conscious recovery model, and it's to help people really access the tools of conscious recovery, which is about what we've talked about, rediscovering our true nature and using metaphysical or spiritual principles to unlearn all the stuff that keeps us stuck and tap into a life of infinite possibilities.
Good, because they're out there and they want to help other people too.
Yeah.
So now that they've made contact with you, there's going to be more students, and more students begats coaches, more coaches.
Yes, I would love that.
Yes, I'm glad you came to my show today to talk about what you do. I'm really impressed with it.
Oh, thank you, John. It's been an honor.
Well, I want to thank you again, and then I'm going to find my notes and see. Yes, here we are. I need to thank my listeners and tuning into Searching for Integrity. You've done that today. And so long, and happy trails to all.